Recently, I had the opportunity to be a guest on my favourite watch-related podcast, and I thought it'd be rather interesting to share it with you guys. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James. You're watching me, and I am talking about watches. Well, it's not just me talking about watches today, it's me and Prucker. Prucker is a friend of mine, but he also hosts a podcast called Overtime the Podcast. If you haven't heard of it or you haven't listened to it before, make sure you do. I'll leave a link to his podcast in the description of this video. But today, well, we've been talking a while about a specific type of subject that is watch related. And as we were discussing this, we thought, well, this would make quite an interesting episode for his podcast. And as we were discussing that, I said, well, what if we filmed the podcast whilst we're talking? You release it as an audio version on the podcast, and then I'll release it as a visual version of it. So that's what we're doing today. Technically, this is his episode, so you'll see him introducing it as if it's his podcast, but it's me featuring it, and I thought it'd be quite interesting to do so. So let's flick over to Overtime the Podcast, featuring me.
Welcome to Overtime the Podcast, proudly sponsored by Watchpoint. All right, today I have my good friend, James, also known to the rest of the world as Watching James from YouTube, Instagram now as well, to join in and have a bit of a question episode. I'm not questioning him per se. In fact, it's not like that normal interview style at all. Further from it. But anyway, before I yap on too much, let's bring in James. How you doing, James?
Hey, Brucker. Great to see you and hear you again.
Great. Always fantastic to see you and hear you. Sorry, this has been, I think this is probably the second time we're trying this, isn't it? Or at least, or maybe even the third time giving it a go. Yeah, I think
we've been talking about it a while, but it eventually came around again. So it's nice to be here and recording.
So third time lucky. Before we introduce the episode, I mean, those who've seen the episode title will know exactly what we're talking about today. But of course, we always kick off with the wrist check. What have you got on your wrist, James?
I'm actually wearing something that I've been wearing for the past 2 weeks, and I've been struggling to take it off. It's an Aliexpress watch, but a Chinese watch made by a company called Sir Jiez. It's a bronze pilot tourbillon.
Nice.
Now technically, the style is looking a bit like a Zenith. However, there is no Zenith that looks like this. I think they've started off with a Zenith Pilot, but then done their own thing completely, because even though the Zenith has a tourbillon, it looks nothing like this. But if you put them side by side, you can see a bit of the similarities, except for a big difference in price.
I was going to say, so it's Chinese tourbillons.
Yes, so I'm actually been quite surprised. I've been wearing it like a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. It has lost 2 seconds in that whole time.
Wow. That's incredible.
I'm really quite impressed. It's a seagull movement, so I think sometimes when we say Chinese movements, we all start thinking unknown or a little bit cheap. But Seagull's this massive company that puts out millions of movements every year, and so I think we can somewhat rely on them. Nice.
Yeah, maybe it also was regulated as well, which possibly why it's running so well.
Absolutely, or maybe I just got a good one, but it was a relatively expensive version from Aliexpress. Almost $1,000, or just over $1,000 Australian. Wow. So it was a bit of a leap, which is beyond my normal. But I do like it.
It's a tourbillon for $1,000. I mean, put it that way,
And that's what I think so too. Sort of, you can look at it from both directions, and that kind of I think leads a little bit into what we're going to be talking about today.
Exactly. All right, well, thanks for sharing what you're wearing on your wrist. Mine's not as complicated as yours, but it is the lighting is awful. It's so bright. X-Star, correct. Yeah, I'm going to switch off the light for a second so you can see it. Yep, the X-Star Pilot, which is the Hanhart homage. Sort of. There's mostly Hanhart. There's a couple of other bits or their own liberties as well. This was this was awesome. This was a gift from the company with the engraving on the back that says "Overtime on the podcast," which is pretty cool. So it's very special, and yes, one of those ones that will stay in the collection. And I just thought I would try it on this sort of brown vintage chocolate leather. This one's from Hirsch, I believe, or Fluco, in Germany. Nice. Yeah, so very thick. I don't know if you can tell. Very, nice.
I can say the same thing about the one I'm wearing too. But I can say I got to see that last time I caught up with you in person, and it actually is a little bit more substantial than I expected, which is nice. Has a little bit of weight to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes those sort of quartz homages watches, I've handled a few, and they feel a little bit light. And that one didn't have that. It actually felt quite solid. I was quite impressed.
Yeah, I think like you're bang on right there. Those VK64 sort of quartz chronographs. Sometimes, the rest of the watch doesn't feel quite as solid sometimes. But this is definitely a well built watch as you've handled, it's getting good bit of wear, especially on. I don't know. It seems a bit contradictory, I guess, wearing like a Pilot chronograph, but in like a vintage leather strap. But I think it works with the white dial, and yeah,
I think so too. It looks lovely.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, that's the wrist checks out of the way. Okay, let's introduce the episode properly, I guess. So we decided to title this episode "The Questions Not Often Questioned." And it really started off as just a conversation between James and I, as we do message each other. Something came up about I guess the first thing. Let's get into the first topic straight into it, which sort of was the premise of this whole episode, or how this whole episode was born. Is watchmakers aren't necessarily enthusiasts.
That kind of blew my mind, because I think we were talking about getting a watch service and where to get it serviced, and I think you said that to me, and I thought, you know what, that's so true. Because I remember I got my father's Seiko Pogue, or the Australian version of the Pogue, serviced in our local town, which we're both from, and I remember speaking to the watchmaker, and he was very nice and he was very knowledgeable. But I went in there all excited about watches, and he was actually quite excited. He went, "Oh, a Pogue, that's quite interesting." And I said, "Oh, what are you wearing?" And he says, "Oh, this is my Seiko Turtle. It's the only watch I own." And I thought, oh, okay, he's just doing a job, and he's probably very good at his job, but that doesn't mean that he's spiraling down this rabbit hole like the rest of us.
Yeah, you're bang on right. I think I'm struggling to think exactly what clicked when I went to the watchmaker, and I thought the same thing as well. I think I was just really excited about a particular microbrand. No, it wasn't even a microbrand. I'm pretty sure it was a Seiko, but he was just he was just not super enthused about it at all. It was kind of just like he said, it's just a job for them. And I guess when we first started off collecting, and you're sort of getting into that now. I've seen some videos recently of you putting together watches, and then, these companies sending you kits, and then you get your hand into putting movements together and stuff. And I see that as like a next level of watch enthusiasm, or watch collecting. You start off collecting these things, and then eventually it's like, well, let's tinker with them. Let's open them up. Let's check them out. And then I see that as being like a next tier up. However, it's almost like counter. It's like the opposite. With watchmakers as such, because they start off with this side of things where they're actually just tinkering and pulling something together, and then, like you say, it's their job.
They probably find that they're quite good at that kind of thing, and they quite enjoy that sort of side of playing with things and moving things around. I guess like a mechanic. A mechanic probably likes cars, but that doesn't mean that they're a full blown watch car enthusiasts with a car, garage full of cars.
Yep.
They I assume reasonably like their job, but and went into that field with all that efforts required. But that doesn't mean that they have a range of vintage cars and new cars, and it's just an interest which perhaps that they're fairly good at, and it's the pathway they went down, which is probably explains and sort of describes most of us when into our jobs.
Yeah, touche. Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. I think I heard this. It might have been a joke or some sort of old tale or something about like a carpenter. His whole day he's spending, doing people's cabinetries and kitchens and everything, and then you go to his house and his stuff is all half finished because he's hasn't got the time, or at the end of the day after doing all that work, he doesn't want to do that again for his own thing. So maybe in that sense, I'm like, I've spent time with the watches every day. Why would I collect watches?
It's like chefs. They make these beautiful things. They go home and they have peanut butter on toast.
Yeah. maybe that's it. But in saying that, of course we look at a lot of these independent watchmakers and such that are around and that are popping up. I've recently spoken to you about ZLTD, which I've been super excited about, and it's cool to speak to them and get their enthusiasm definitely coming across these sort of new independent startup watchmakers who are putting stuff together, doing a lot of this stuff. They're not micro brands. They're not brands that are passionate and have made designs and have then gone to a factory to get all that stuff. They're not creating a brand per se. That they are eventually, but the first thing is hands-on tinkering, making their watch. So, but yeah, it's definitely a very interesting topic, and I'd be curious to know actually, a lot of these watchmakers or sort of career watchmakers, whether they actually, how much they care.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess that's sort of we can move on to the sort of next question, I guess. From there on, and I guess this one's maybe we don't really think about this as much as we probably should, but screw down crowns. It's just something that I don't know. Do you think about screw down crowns much?
I used to. I used to think we need a screw down crown. A screw down crown makes a watch better. I don't want a watch without a screw down crown. And it wasn't that I wasn't thinking about the question. It's more that I was not questioning why I'm wanting a screw down crown, because I want a screw down crown on my diver. Not that I specifically need it for a diver, because I haven't worn a watch diving in 20 years. But other watches, honestly, I've now flipped the idea. I do not want a screw down crown unless it's specifically on a 200-meter diver. And in fact, it's more annoying. It's more likely that you're going to cause some damage. I don't need that additional water resistance. So this idea of I need this, or I need sapphire crystal, or I need this sort of extra level of something, and having a screw down crown is just something I keep hearing people saying, I wish it had a screw down crown. It needs a screw down crown. And I'm not convinced about that anymore.
Yeah, I think there's almost like a level of you need to tick off these things. And if you don't tick these things off, then I don't want that watch. There's always been that sort of spec sheet that you need to, all right, if I got this, if I got that. And I probably have been quite guilty of that in the past as well.
Did you find that earlier on into the watchings that sort of popped up?
Not sort of, I almost say not so much the first couple of months when I first started. I probably would say about year 2. And probably after watching a lot of YouTube videos.
I was about to say that's when it came into my head too, because before that, never thought about it.
You
Suddenly watching
know.
YouTube, and I was like, now it needs to have these specifications. So I'm blaming Jody on this one, to be honest.
Yeah, that's it. Jody.
Sorry, Jody.
And I think for me a lot of it was Teddy when I was first sort of starting. And sometimes it's actually more of a hindrance. I had this Serica 4512, the California dial, which is the manual one watch. But it was a 200 meter water resistance watch, and it came with a screw down crown. Now, manual one watches, screw down crown. I mean, I was just always so hesitant of that. And I almost felt sometimes I'm going to break it. So
I'm just pointing to my watch that I was talking about earlier, which is this lovely hand wound tourbillon. But the one thing about it, screw down crown. Yeah. Which means every day I'm unscrewing it.
Yeah. See, but there's, I mean, I'm not sure how that movement is, and I'm assuming it's very similar. But when you sort of go to that final position, there's like a little push in before you start screwing down. So there is like a little safety, I guess. So if you start screwing down when you haven't done that little push in, you're going to potentially overwind, but I think it's a very low risk. But because there usually is a bit of a there's a bit of a stop to stop you from doing that. But in saying that, I've managed to break that watch once. I'm not sure. I think I did. So I might have brought this up on the podcast. I did break it. Wasn't doing that, but it did. Actually, no, it was winding. It was winding. And it was like,
suddenly very easy to move now.
It's winding, yeah. And anyway, thankfully, the watch was fixed and it's all good. But definitely made me a little bit more weary after that. Having screw down crowns on a manual one watch, I just think it's I don't know. Yeah, like you said, do you actually need it? If you have a gasket in there, I think there's watches out there with 150 meter water resistant without screw down crown.
Absolutely. I was watching a video today. It was a 200 meters without a screw down crown. So, and you regularly see 100 meters, which I think is actually just a perfectly good amount. That's all you really need in most 99.9% of circumstances. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm now on the no screw down crown bandwagon.
Okay. I wouldn't go as far to say I'm on the no screw down crown bandwagon. Like if I go to the beach or something, I'm wearing my turtle. Screw down crown, 200 meter water resistance, rock solid. It's the best beach watch for me. I don't, or my Seiko SPB 143. It's purpose made. These are tool watches that are purpose made to do that. I'm happy with that screw down crown. But other stuff like a field watch that's also 300 meter water resistance, it's okay. I don't think I need to do that.
Yeah, I think let's keep screw down crowns for divers. Yeah, and everything else we can probably most likely do without.
Yeah, but I'll be interested. Listeners, if you follow along, shoot us a message after this. And is it time for us to actually? Should we say that this will be also dropped in both
to my channel as well?
Yes, that's it. So yeah, not only is this going to be an audio only podcast, you can see my ugly mug in James's channel, just yapping away. So yeah,
I thought it'd be quite interesting for people. So people get to see both of us talking as well as just listening to you going on, and something a little bit different.
Something a little bit different.
And if people like it, both on your podcast and your feedback, but also on my channel, if they like it, please let us know, because I'd love to do this more regularly as well, because I think it'd be quite fun.
For sure. I enjoy it. I enjoy chatting, of course, watches, and why not? Why not show them?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. What's next? What do we got here? I'll let you introduce this one. What's this?
This is actually one I brought up because of a store I visited recently in Queensland, and we've written down independent brands over mainstreams, especially considering price and especially considering sort of grail-worthy watches. Because I think, I say this partly because of the ones I've seen recently, but it was more the pricing somewhat lined up with some of these other grails that I've had in my head. And when you looked at these watches, I thought, wow, they're rather special and they're in that same price category. Not all of them, of course. But why am I chasing after this idea of a Grand Seiko or an Amiga when this handcrafted piece of artwork could be had for the same sort of price?
Yeah.
And it just didn't. I thought the idea of independent was almost in this high horology kind of idea. I think that's where my mind was sitting.
Mm.
And there definitely are those ones, but there is actually semi-attainable ones as well.
Yeah, for sure. I have been in the last couple of months also been really, I would probably say more than that, probably over a year and a half. Actually, wow. Yeah, probably 2 years. I've been looking at sort of independent stuff as well on the side, and I'm so, you go, well, if I'm going to spend this much on an Omega Aquaterra, which don't get me wrong, they're great watches, but they're very much run of the mill design wise. They're very simple watches, and that's no fault of the Aquaterra. It does what it should do very well, but it also costs. I don't know. You can get an Aquaterra for $6,000, $7,000. Well, I don't even know how much it is retail now.
It's on the used market around 6 to 7 ish.
Yeah, so $6,000-7,000 for something that can be bought at a micro brand level, or even just a little bit more, like say your Formex Essence, for example. Essentially very similar watches. It's a Garda watch, it's a steel sports watch, white dials, gradient dial. Actually, an Aquaterra and a Formex have a lot in common. However, the Formex has that point of difference, has that case design difference. The bracelets are fantastic. They're very, very good. Don't get me wrong, Omega bracelets are great as well. But that's a special. The Formex bracelet's just a little bit special. So then you go, okay, well, this costs this much. This costs this much. I'm getting basically the same sort of stuff. And I guess Formex come under independent brands? Maybe not. Maybe it's more in the micro brands. But then you go, if I'm going to pay $6,000 for something like this, let's pivot and look at, for example, I was looking at this brand called Alexander Shawcroft, which I believe you checked out as well.
Which I did, absolutely. Very fun, interesting design watches.
Yes.
I'm just going to type that into my computer so I can actually look at the things as we're talking.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same as well. And I didn't know about this watch brand. I actually was listening to the Fifth Wrist podcast, and they brought up, they brought up this brand, and I was like, oh, cool. And I was listening to it, and I thought, this, it's very interesting, and it's just different. It's all sorts of designs all over I wouldn't want to say all over the shop, but kind of is. They've got some really sort of toned down stuff, and they've got stuff that's like sort of, pretty out there. And then, I'm looking at this right now in Chrono 24. I'm actually going to send this to you right now as well, so you can have a look.
Well, the first one that pops up in my Google search is actually from the store that I was visiting. Can I click on that on...
Can you see that? Can you click on that? But
no, I don't think I can.
Okay, well, if it's a regulator, Chrono 20, if you're in Chrono 24, you can type in the Alexander Shorokov, and beautiful, absolutely beautiful watch, and it's $3,400, and the movement is all this hand engraved, and it's just Anyway, made in Germany, and it looks the absolute business, and it's just different, very different. Anyway, this is not to say that this is anywhere near the quality of, say, an Aquaterra or looking like an Aquaterra. I just picked an Aquaterra as an example. But what I mean is, if I had the money to spend that much money, but I already can, what I can do is I can split that money and I can buy a Formex, and I can also buy something interesting from an independent brand instead of putting all that money towards essentially a very quote unquote basic design from an Omega or a Grand Seiko. And so anyway, I stood on a bit of a soapbox there for a minute, but
even new, they're $2,500 Australian dollars, $3,000. It's a lot of watch for what you're getting.
Yes.
And yes, it may not be an Omega with the Omega lovely looking movement and things. It might be a bit more of a standard or adjusted movement or something a little bit extra done.
Yeah.
But it's something a bit extra. Like if this had an Omega on the dial, if it was that kind of well-known brand, it wouldn't be that price.
Oh, no way. Yeah, a regulator movement, an Omega regulator, I don't even know how much that would be. I don't know. Do they even do regulator ones in the newer? No, I
don't think so. And just they've got some cool watches. The ones I saw at the store from that brand were the more out there designs and all colourful dials, which was nice to see. I actually didn't realize they were actually in that lower category of price, because I looked at them and thought they were $10,000 to $15,000 watches.
There you go. And you had hands on,
and I was getting hands on. Yeah. So there you go. And what was great about that store was very independent, but they had watches like from Zinn, from Damasco, from Hand Heart, but then they had these other $100,000 watches as well. There was this whole range of these independents, very German, Swiss, Austrian-based sort of companies. And that was also the other part of the independent part that I liked, is that the owner of the store has personal relationships with all the brand owners. He knows them, he understands them, he visits them, they're friends. So he has not just that relationship, which is sort of nice, but he has that information and that connection to them that makes it a bit different when you're buying a watch. And it's like buying a micro brand as well, where you can talk directly to the owner and have that sort of chat. You can also do that at this slightly higher level, at the $3,000 mark or the $10,000 mark or the $100,000 mark, where I don't see that happening with mainstream watches.
Oh yeah, definitely not. I mean, there's like the sort of higher end sort of independence, and obviously we're not really at Overtime. We don't really play in that field, but I'm just picking, for example, Lane, LAINE, right?
I like Lane. Yeah, they're nice.
Fantastic watches. They just look absolutely beautiful, and they're another level of independent watches. But I'm looking at one right now, $15,000, unworn, full set, Lane GG1, manual wine, you name it, Breguet numerals, alpha hands, small seconds, it's and with a gear shade pattern dial, just stunning, absolutely stunning. $15,000. Now
that's the blue one.
That's the blue one. You saw that?
Yeah, I'm looking at it too. I've got Chrono 24 off.
That's like so. But now I'm going to go to the Rolex website, and for $15,000, what can I buy? A Datejust 36,
which is a nice watch, but it's not that, and there is no. And I think that kind of actually leads into the next thing we're going to be talking about. Do you mind if I blend us into the next question? Because the next one we're going to be talking about, luxury does not always mean handmade.
Yep.
And Rolex is definitely not a handmade watch. It's a production line watch, and I've got nothing against that. I think it's great. Better quality control, better you know it's going to work, but you're not getting that hands-on engraving, that stuff which really for the big brands it's the big dollars. But when we are talking independents, you know, I was looking at a Benzinger, and it's all, you're paying for the hands-on. You're paying 15 grand plus, but you're getting a lot of hands-on from the owner of the brand, and you're getting that customization and that feel, which you just can't get from mainstream brands, not at anywhere near those sort of prices.
That is beautiful, that Benzinger brand. I think you did
really
send
like
me
it.
one, didn't you?
I had to. I suddenly went down a little rabbit hole of, oh, these are pretty. I want one.
Yeah, these are super cool. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think the whole premise of luxury goods in general, right, is it doesn't, what one person perceives as luxury is not luxury for someone else. I mean, yes, the cost is always going to determine whether it's luxury or not luxury, but that's just the first sort of barrier to entry or something. That's it. But then once the cost aspect of it is sort of taken away, it's very subjective. I mean, someone could look at one of these Benzingers and go, and again, please, I'm not talking this watch down at all. It's absolutely beautiful, but some of their sort of simple two-hand kind of watch, you know, they go, oh, like, you know, that looks like a, I don't know, Daniel Wellington. I mean, I'm
no, absolutely,
really pulling a stretch here, but then if someone's wearing a Rolex, that doesn't matter what it is, or something that even looks like a Rolex, you go, oh yeah, wow, you're wearing a Rolex. You know, that's money, that's luxury right there.
It's how people assign value.
Exactly, how people assign value. It's all perceived. I feel, and I think as enthusiasts, because we're so down the rabbit hole, a lot of us are just trying to find new things constantly, every day. We're trying to find new things to feed that beast, you know, of that. I want to
100%,
and we just want to consume and try and not necessarily buy everything, but we want to find new things. We want to check it out. We want to go, oh, this is cool. This is different. I want to check it out. And I think as secretly, we all want something a bit unique, something a bit different from everyone else. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's good. We don't all need to have a Tissot PRX. You know, we no. Like you want to have something different, but it doesn't have to be something that's infinitely luxurious to be different. But sometimes it does help when you have that money to be able to.
It gives you the options, doesn't it? But so I get jealous. I've got a couple of friends in the watch community, and one guy's a massive Timex fan, and he's just Timex. He's so passionate about Timex, and every time I speak to him, I say I'm so jealous because I wish that I was so passionate about an affordable brand and only interested in an affordable brand. It'd be so much more affordable in this watch world if I only wanted Timex.
I think it's funny you say that. There was a post on Reddit the other day, and one of the Overtime listeners and a local mate of ours, he sent it through, and this person had bought almost 380 different G-Shocks in the space of 2 years.
Wow!
Now that's another level. That's your Timex collector for G-Shocks, and only 2 years. So I don't know how many your mate has, but
not that many, I don't think. But I think that leans more into the collecting side of things than the watch enthusiast. I always sort of separate them out. I think there's watch enthusiasm, which because we just so love these things on our wrists. Yes. But then we also like the hunt and the collecting, and that's sort of watches just happen to be the thing that we're collecting. And I try to find a bit of a balance between the two.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
It's so hard. And I was listening to your episode with your dad. I think put some things to perspective. If you haven't, listeners, if you haven't checked it out, it's a very interesting conversation. Sorry, a little segue. I'll put the show. I'll put it into the show notes.
It's a really interesting one because my dad's a Zen Buddhist priest. He has been for about 20 years. It was always something that was interested him. So I sort of grew up with a bit of that sort of stuff in my life. But I just thought it would be a really good idea to sit down with him and talk about a few of the watch type related things in regards to attachment, the want and desires, but also just, what is it from that more perspective, and we've kept it pretty light and we've kept it sort of watch orientated. So we haven't, it's certainly not making anybody feel bad because that was not the point of any of all that stuff. But I thought it was quite an interesting perspective and I thought people might enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. So no, I don't think that at all. I don't think it was a guilt trip type thing at all. I thought it was a very interesting perspective, something that we don't really hear about in the watch sort of space. So yeah,
no, I'm trying to find more of those kind of ideas to put out there because I think I quite enjoy making people think a little bit because I do it to myself, trying to keep step back and sort of assess why I'm doing something, mostly so that when I do make a watch purchase, I make a better watch purchase.
A better, more informed purchase, not just, I found... here's a deal.
Here's a deal.
I say that, but a lot of times I fall into that trap. Oh, wow, look at that. That's cheap. Okay, boom, I'll buy it.
I can get free for the price of one.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, God.
What do they say? If it's one watch is 50, but two for 100?
Yep, exactly. Why not? Oh, gosh. Okay.
What are we talking about next, Parker?
Okay, I think let's talk about, since we started talking about prices, let's go to your next, literally the next one after. Used watch prices being inflated due to the costs associated with selling them.
Yes, I've found this recently because I've bought a few slightly more expensive used watches and through Chrono24, through eBay, I've been watching prices. And it just clicked for me, and it was something which it's not exactly a secret by any means, but those prices of you see them sort of drop off a little bit from new down to second hand, but then they tend to level off a little bit and even go up a little bit. And I'm sure it's got to do with the fact that if you're buying a watch internationally, you're paying import or taxes of some sort. You're having to cover the costs of the seller's side because whoever's selling the watch is obviously taking that into account because they're paying 12% for eBay fees or 7% for Chrono24. So you're paying that extra plus postage, so you're paying that too. So then if you then go to sell that watch and you sell it on that same site, you're then now thinking, oh, well, I have to cover my own costs or at least give or take, you take that into account. But now you've also got to cover your own, the fees. And the person then who is buying it is then also paying taxes, and then the person that's buying is also paying shipping, and everybody who's buying this watch or selling this watch there's this other money in there that's not actually the watch.
It's like stamp duty. Everyone's paying. Why is that? No.
Why? For somebody for a computer to go tick, you got a $25,000 bill. It's a bit harsh, really.
Yeah. Well, maybe that was probably a bit too Australian specific. Maybe that's not.
That is tax that we have to pay as Australians whenever we buy a property.
There you go. Thank you. And it happens every time. So yeah. So every time in the same house gets sold and resold and sold and resold, everyone pays. So very similar, I guess, to watches. There's always this hidden fees to it. For me, I haven't really experienced this as much because I don't tend to buy. A lot of my watch buys are within forums, less so places like Chrono24, eBay. Where there is that attached fees, which is a great thing for saving, all these fees if you're going through these forums.
Absolutely.
I always encourage to look at a local trusted forum. For us,
I think we're quite lucky here in Australia because we've got some really good sales forums like that are Australia-wide.
That's it. Yeah. So, AAWF, which I go on about all the time. AWBSS, there's multiples. There's Australian Watch Market. There's so many. But of course, comes the obvious buyer protection side of things and all that as well, which you have to factor in. Do you know this person? Do they have please go listen to the dangers of buying online episode that I've done in the past, which will tell you all the different things to watch out for, red flags, etc. But also, I won't go into all the details again here. But you have to. I almost feel like that all these fees that you're paying is like a bit of security fee.
100%. And I find anything under $1,000, I can quite easily sell or buy on these forums. I then find just above that, there tends to be that issue. And I think it is because people are more wary about sending more than $1,000 and that's when I do find I end up having to then look at things like Chrono24 or eBay.
Yeah.
That seems to be the line for me.
Yeah. I think the last sale or purchase I made, which was above a certain amount, that was that was very hard to go, okay, I'm sending a lot of money across. There was no buyer protection. There was nothing. It was just a pure, have I done my due diligence? And I was happy enough. I had references. I had multiple phone calls with the person that I was buying off. And I was definitely sure they had the watch, and I was sure of their character through other people that I've dealt with who vouched for them. So I was happy enough to do that. But, if I could find the exact watch that I bought on Chrono24 for a little bit more because of the fees, would I have done that instead? Maybe. I don't know. Sometimes it's tempting just to save that little bit of money, but it's not necessarily, it's not necessarily the right thing to do. Yeah.
Not always. It saved me a little bit. When I bought my Mont Blanc, the Nicholas Roussek, which is my most expensive watch, when it arrived, it had a tiny little scratch on the crystal, and it was minor, but for a $5,000 watch, for me, that's massive. That's a huge amount of money.
Course, yeah.
But because it was Chrono24, the money was being held, so I reached out and said, there's a little scratch, which he admittedly said he didn't see, which I don't 100% believe, but I didn't push that point. But he then partially refunded me some money because there was a negotiation available.
Okay.
And he may have done that even if it wasn't through Chrono24, but it gave me a little bit more.
Yeah, but the escrow process is pretty good.
It's good. But so that was more what I was trying to sort of say with this, that there is this artificial inflation because a watch is being sold back and forth occasionally. And these fees and things just keep sort of end up being put back into it. And
but we never really thought about it that way, when we're seeing, like, we're always, in our mind, it's always like, eBay's a bit more expensive than buying through forum, and Chrono24 is more expensive because of fees. But when you really break it down, like, why, and then why there's those premiums attached to it, it makes sense. So there you go. Questions not often questioned.
Questions not often questioned. And speaking about questions not often questioned, or opinions not often things, is us and our own opinions. This is what and about us sort of parroting other people's opinions, or hearing something and then suddenly now that's our opinion and we haven't questioned that.
I have to laugh at this one.
I've definitely done this. I keep catching myself out occasionally doing it and thinking, why do I have this opinion? And it's because somebody that I like or somebody that I trust or has said something, and it's just gone into my head and suddenly now it's coming out my mouth.
Yeah.
Without me actually thinking it through myself.
This is, I've done this as well. Screw down crowns, just like what we were talking about before. Same, like, well, no, you need screw down crowns. Okay, why?
Why? My example is the having a quartz watch in your collection. It needs to be there because you need a grab and go watch. And I've had lots of quartz watches in my collection, And I know that I've been in many situations where I'm running out the door and I've looked at my collection and I've literally had my thought, this is the opportunity for my grab and go watch. And I've never grabbed a quartz watch. I grabbed a no date watch so that it'll be easier to adjust later on when I've got time.
Yeah.
But I've literally looked at my collection thinking, I'm running out the door. This is the time to grab the quartz. And not once did I grab a quartz watch.
Wow. Okay.
Nothing against the idea, but for me, it
didn't work. Yeah.
It didn't work.
I actually would say that that's one of the opinions that I actually am for. Works for me. Full disclosure, people. I had taken my watch off when I got home, and I didn't have a watch on before we started the episode. Sometimes if the watch is sitting next to me or whatever, I'll just, won't bother. I'll just introduce the episode, wrist check, everything. And then James reminded me that it's on video, so I better put a watch on. But also, I didn't want to pull out a watch I didn't want to wear a watch that I was just wearing before, which was the Christopher Ward. I wore it all day. And I thought, I'll just wear a watch which is quartz, so I don't have to set it. I can just pick it up and go. Which is
does show us?
But it was a split-second decision, and it was there. So yes, that definitely works for me. But it's funny.
So the idea is not that the opinion's wrong. It's just, have you questioned why you're thinking it? And for me, that one doesn't work for me. It works well for you, and I'm sure it works actually well for a lot of people, but it literally doesn't work. And I know I've said this before in videos as well. Oh, it's a quartz watch. It's a great grab and go watch.
Yeah.
But it's actually not my opinion. And I now don't say it, of course, now, because I've realized that's not my opinion.
You don't do that. Yeah.
No, but it did certainly make me think, well, what else am I saying that is not my opinion? Especially because we're putting it out in this forum of social media and YouTube and podcasts and things. Like, am I just saying this? And I know certainly, and I know this is coming to my head more because I read every comment on my videos. I try and respond to everyone, and I read some wording in some of these comments, and it's not their wording. It's literally somebody else's opinion. Because I watch like 100 channels on YouTube. I listen to you every episode that you do.
Thank you.
I love consuming it because it's entertaining and it's my passion. But you hear people's opinions, and it's their little catchphrase or something that they say often, and I get to know them. And when somebody leaves a comment and it's exactly their words, I think, oh, is that actually their opinion, or have they just picked it up because they like this other person?
That's very interesting. I probably parrot a lot of things. I was just trying to think in my mind. I was like, what do I say that I probably say all the time? I think I talk about microbrands and how microbrands are so good because you can get something that's more unique for the price you pay or something. And I think I say that all the time. And but I do actually believe in that. So it's not like I'm parroting it. But yeah, I wonder how many people parrot that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's quite a few things about microbrands we could say, like, it's good value. It's like, well, it is good value, but is that actually the reason why they exist, or why? It might be part of it, but yeah, there's. I like trying to step back and have a bit of more of a think.
I think the other thing before we sort of move on to the next one is the movements in that sort of space. I've always been like, it's only got the NH35, and a lot of YouTubers go into that, and it's like, it's this, but it's only got the NH35. It's $500 US. It should have a Myoto movement in it, or it should, $600 US. It should have a Salida movement in it. There's these sort of perceived price bracket, and it should be this because, and then I've seen that someone has said that, and then a lot of people start saying the same thing, and I think I sort of fell into that trap about, this has got a NH35 or it's NH35. NH35 movements or 4R30 4R movements, 4R36 movement.
35, 34, 35, 36,
Correct.
38.
Yeah. the equivalents.
This is actually a really good version of this idea because it's actually one I've had too.
It's rock solid. I have never had an issue with any of my NH35s or 4R movements. I have a lot more, to be fair, I have a lot more 4R movements than I've ever had NH movements because I have Seikos. I have lots of Seikos. I've always had lots of Seikos. I've never had an issue. I have had issues with, to be fair, I haven't had a lot of issues with Miotas either, aside from the whole, the rotor, loud rotor noise stuff, which doesn't really bother me too much, if I'm being honest. But it is quite visible in some watches more so than others. But Solida movements and ETA movements, or the equivalent, I've had issues. I've had more issues. I've had helicopter rotor issues. I've had, it's sticky to hand wind. It's a lot harder. And you go, well, these are just things that the NH35 movement just does.
And I've never once had an issue with a Seiko movement. All of them are within 10 seconds, and all of them just keep going and going. It's funny because I watched a video from a watchmaker. He's a retired watchmaker, did it for 40 years because I'm trying to learn a little bit more about how to pull things apart. And he was talking about how good the 8000 series Miyotas are and how rock solid they are and how much he loves them and how much he relies upon them. And we're all sort of crapping on the 8000 series Miyotas, saying, oh, these are terrible. No, they're really good movements.
Yeah.
It's just that they're really affordable and they've been around a long time.
Exactly.
So I'm rethinking movements too. It's just I think there's a place for all of them.
Yes.
But let's not
pigeonhole them into
and
this is not as good as this. Sure, the tolerances, the accuracy might not be as tight in a 4R movement as opposed to a ETA 2824, but or a Solida, 200-1. However, in terms of everyday function, in terms of everyday use, I can't fault it. Can't fault it at all.
It's interesting because when you say that, because the ETA hand winding movement, the ETA it's been around. It's like a pocket watch movement. 7001.
Yeah, that's it.
Been around for a very long time. It's been cloned by Seagull, lots of those things around.
Yeah, and Perseus and all that.
Yeah, and people sort of don't write them off, but they put them in a very affordable category. And we were talking about that Benzinger earlier, those handcrafted watches in Germany. A lot of their watches use those movements, but they're then handcrafted and skeletonized by hand with these tiny little saws, and they spend months on them. But people then say, how would I spend $15,000 on one of these movements? And it's like, oh, hang on a second. That's because they're pigeonholing the movement.
Yes.
And all putting it into this price category. And I actually don't think that's fair. I'm
not fair at all. Yeah. No, that's great movements. I mean, I think I may be butchering the way I'm saying it. So Perso. So that's what Perso were the one who made the movement first, and then the ETA bought them over or whatever it was. So the Nomos Alpha movement is based on the ETA 7001, the Perseus movement. If you look at the movement, you look at the Alpha movement, it's, you can see where it's come from. And I'm pretty sure Nomos initially started with the 7001 as the movement, and then eventually they developed their own, which is the Alpha, which is very similar. And then I think they got the DW movement series after. But anyway, you're right. Yeah, there's absolutely no reason to crap on a movement.
No, and especially when you talk to the people that really know them, that have been working with them day in, day out for 40 years, and they say this movement's brilliant. I trust the 40-year veteran watchmaker versus a YouTuber like myself just saying, I want the 9000 Miyota because I'm actually not sure, but I like the 9000 Miyota.
But it's better because it's better.
Although I do really like the 9000 Miyotas. I think they're lovely.
They're fantastic movements. Yes, I agree.
But I'd pick them over the Solidas and things, and over the ETAs. I really like those 9000 Miyotas. But again, if you're looking at a $1,500 watch, people go, oh, well, it needs to have a Swiss movement. Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not as convinced about that anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, perceived value.
Perceived value.
Yeah. But then, you know,
Should retitle this episode "Perceived Value."
I mean, what if it's a $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 watch, and then people expect manufacturer calibers, right? In-house calibers. So then that's a whole other kettle of fish.
That's a whole other story. And that's one of the things my pet hates. I'm not a fan of the in-house caliber idea.
I've
got nothing against them, but the idea of this is why it's more, and this is why it's more expensive, and it's more luxurious, and it's more, it's better. Wow.
I mean, like,
it might be, but it's not always.
Yeah. I mean, if it has a reason why, like as in has better accuracy or better stuff like the METAS movement from Tudor, like, you know, that's got all these awesome specs with it, you know, and they've developed that with Kinesi, and it's like, okay, cool, that's awesome. They've done something different. But you know, if someone just puts together their own independent movement, it's like, great, but am I going to be able to get parts in 20 years for that movement? Maybe not.
And I love it when people remind people that all Seiko movements are in-house movements. All, you know,
citizen movements are all in-house movements. Okay, Miota. Yep.
So yeah.
Anyway, we were going off to a little tangent.
I like our conversations. We often have tangent conversations.
It's true. It's true. It's definitely true. Okay, where are we? How are we doing for time? I feel like we've got just.
I have no idea.
We've just.
Do we have a time frame?
Well, I guess not. We can always split it to a half episode here and then half episode to the next one if it does go over to. I think we're about just over an hour at the moment, which is roughly what we go on to. But let's pick another.
Maybe pick another one or two.
Yeah, let's do it. You pick one next.
All right, what's that? Oh, I love this one. Grail does not always equal favorite watch.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that and why I put that one in there is, and it's something which I've done because I've had quite a few Grail ideas of watches in my mind. And every time I've gone to look at one of these Grails in person, I've deliberately worn my Hamilton GMT, which is one of my all-time favorite watches, which is a relatively affordable watch because I just love it so much. And when I'm out looking at these Grail watches, the Grand Seiko or the Omega or whatever it is that I'm looking at, I always then put it next to the Hamilton and say, do I like it as much? And it's always better than the Hamilton in many ways,
sure.
But not once have I said that I like it more than the Hamilton. So wow. I think a Grail can be your favorite watch which you're working towards or one day might get, but Grail doesn't automatically equal it's your favorite watch.
It's almost like, does it stand the pub test? You know? Yeah. I don't know how I can, because I don't think I personally have. The only Grail watch that I have is my affordable Grail, which I've spoken about before, which is my Seiko SKXA 35, which is a variant of the SKX 007, and it's my Grail for many reasons, which I've gone into in the past. I won't go into it again. Does that necessarily mean it's my favorite watch in my collection? No. So yeah, I agree with you there. I don't think it's my favorite watch in my collection. It's special. It has a meaning to it. There is things that I love about it, things that I probably I would change about it. The movement is a 7S26. It's a shake and go. You know, there's no hand wind. I would like hand wind functionality. People can say, just change the movement out. But no, that defeats the purpose of me getting this watch. I want this watch to be this watch. But yes, so would that make it my favorite watch if I start changing a few bits to make it my favorite watch? Maybe not. But then again, if you asked me right now, what is your favorite watch in your collection? I don't know if I can answer you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's interesting. Because I could definitely answer that question. I was actually had another question, which is off topic slightly, because
Yeah,
what's my favorite brand? I don't have an answer to that anymore. I used to, but I don't have an answer to that anymore.
I don't think I have an answer to that either. Well, actually, no. Look, I think people won't be surprised if I say Seiko is there, but at the same time, I wouldn't would be like, yeah, it's the all time. It's my absolute favorite. Maybe not. It's probably what's influences me the most. I think
That was my answer a few years ago.
yeah, it's my most
Today,
influential.
as I still love them, don't get me wrong, but I can't quite identify what my favorite brand is anymore.
Sorry, I had to mute my mic. Had a little coughing fit.
It looks very interesting on camera. People who are watching my channel will see this muted cough.
You can cut that out if you like.
No, I'm leaving that in.
I give you permission to. Oh gosh. Yes, that's a good point. It's a good point. I wonder. I mean, it's also like that the old adage, never meet your heroes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It may not be quite as sweet as you think. Or so maybe when you would like your grey watch to be your favorite watch, but when you actually get it,
Bit of a letdown. It's funny. I've heard both stories. I know a few people who've eventually got their grails and it becomes their most worn watch and they love it forever. But I also know equally as many people, actually probably more, that have actually ended up selling them.
Really? Because it's a lot of money locked into that one grail watch, and they're like, oh, I don't really like it, and then they move it on. Or...
A couple of reasons. I've had one that was so much money that they didn't want to wear it. They were scared to wear it. Which I get, and others that just like, yeah, it's nice, but it's just another nice watch which I've owned and enjoyed, but then sold. Just because it was a grail at the time, it was actually more of just a really nice watch that they bought, enjoyed, and then eventually sold.
Yeah. Yep. And that probably segues into, I would say, our final question, which is, it's okay to sell your watch.
It is okay to sell your watch. And it's not okay for everybody, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I definitely couldn't buy and own the amount of watches I have if I wasn't selling watches, because I financially need that money to go back into it. But I think I put this one in there because I sometimes feel a little bit guilty about selling a watch, because when I go into the purchasing of that watch, I go in with the idea, I'm buying this watch forever. And then when it doesn't end up staying forever, I suddenly feel a little bit guilty about letting it go, even though I've owned it and I've loved it and I've worn it and worn it. And it's now then just got to a point where it's okay to let it go. I've got to the point now. It's okay to sell your watch.
Yeah, I think I have a little internal struggle about this. We've definitely spoken about this before. I have bought and sold many watches, and as you say, it's the funds are finite. I need to sell. And more often than not, I like experiencing different watches. So it's always, that's how you do it. You have to buy to sell. I mean, you have to sell to buy. Yeah, that's it. But sometimes, you get attached to a watch, or you go, oh, this means this because I got it from this person, or oh, I really shouldn't sell this, or whatever ends up being. And I think I didn't think this way. Must say, I'll put it out there. I didn't think this way. However, talking to yourself and talking to others, now I'm like, yeah, it is okay to sell your watch.
They're there. It's okay.
Exactly. All right. As you would have all seen, I'm coughing my lungs out here, so still not quite 100%. So I think that
Brock's had a bit of a flu recently. He had a bit of a demand flu, and it put him in bed for a couple of days.
Exactly, and that's why that's a third time lucky. We've already pushed it back twice, but and the show must go on. So we did, and I mean, really, I would say that's a great point to wrap up, and we'll say end it the episode there. Let's call this a part one, because I think there's going to be more. There's definitely going to be more of these.
I keep thinking about new things to add to that list. I think it's quite an interesting topic, and it's nice to talk about the things that not everybody's always talking about. And we may have covered some things that people already talk about, but
sure.
But just sort of trying to think about some of those slightly less thought about questions.
Yeah, and it's not very how do you say it? This isn't scripted, by the way, guys. This is just we've got stuff written down, and we're gonna just talk about it. So I think it's great. I think it's great to do stuff like this. Have you got anything, something interesting that you want to share? Yes, you do.
I do actually, because I was thinking about this.
Please.
I know you asked this question, and I was thinking, I really got to think about something. But I had a very interesting. I already spoke to you today about it, but I had this great conversation with a brand owner this morning. It's his first watch that he's putting out. He's going through all the prototype phasing. He lives over in Panama, but he's from Venezuela, and he was talking about how there is no watch community where he lives, and he's tried to involve himself in something, but it just doesn't exist. And he's been enjoying the process of this whole watch creation, partly because he's now starting to have these interactions with people like me and manufacturers and people. And it reminds me of one of my favorite parts of doing this, both YouTube but also watches, and that is this community and this socializing and just how nice and important it is. And it just reminds me that this is nice, be able to catch up with you and talk to you like this, or even in real life. And it's something quite special, because I've been involved in a lot of different interests over my life, and I've never had these type of interactions that I think, well, this is not just a one-off interaction. I'm going to know this person for a long time, and that's nice. And I thought, and I just and I think it's something that I don't think we always think about. And I'm not a huge big social media person, albeit YouTube is social media. I don't even consider it social media when I started YouTube, but it is.
It didn't used to be, I think. I felt like it was just videos now.
But it's because it's a shared interest. I think it's something that we're so passionate about, and there are so many people that do put so much time and energy into this thing, that when you can then share it with somebody that has that same passion, it's just such nice. And it was a nice reminder today that there is more to watches than just the watch on our wrist.
The watch itself. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've said this to you before. I've said this to others before as well, that I've met through this hobby that's just become all-consuming, but in many ways. But also, I think the reason why it's so all-consuming is the fact that you make good friends. You make them really good. You make some, like you say, some really long-term relationships. And I've got many people that or even yourself, we talk not about watches, we're just talking about other stuff as well. And you do that because it's like, well, but you've got that community. You've got someone to, you got that people. When I think I was talking to a listener from Montreal that said a very similar thing as well. Shout out to Seb. He is a avid listener, and I thank you very much. He always says, "Oh man, you guys in Perth have got it good. You guys have all the meetups, all the catch ups, all these cool things." He's like, I don't think there's anything going on here. So maybe, but it's there's still the social media aspect. People can link up with others in Instagram and such. Which to be fair, I've made some friends through there as well. But it's a different element, I think, than like a local collectors group. I think that's a bit more interaction, bit more substance, maybe.
Absolutely. What about you? Anything come into mind about something interesting?
Oh,
This is your segment.
I know. How bad is that? I've just like James said before, I've just had a pretty exhausting week. It's just been crook, and I didn't wear a watch in 4 days. It was bad.
That's how bad it was. We know it's bad when there's 4 days of no watch.
Yeah,
Don't worry, I wore enough watches for both of us in that 4 days.
Thank you. So no, not really. I don't really have anything interesting. I just thought, but you make a very good point. I'll concur to what you say. I concur.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, that's it. We'll wrap it up there. Again, thank you so much, James. This was your idea, and I'm glad we made it happen finally. And it's all my fault for delaying it twice. So, yes, thank you, and we'll do this again.
I look forward to it.
All right. Well, there's nothing else. We'll leave it right there. Cheers.